Welcome, Kim. Thank you so
Thank
much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It really is an honor, and I'm so grateful to have you on because I know that you have an incredible story to tell. And this is what this podcast really is about. It is about sharing the incredible stories of other, women, Latinas, women of color, the incredible things that they have done, the challenges that they face, but also how they have used their skills, gifts, and talents to shine their own light. So, with that, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Kim Decena?
Kim Decena is a entrepreneur, business woman, mom, homeschool mom, neurodivergent mom. I have a child who's neurodivergent. I'm a wife, sister, daughter. I feel like sometimes it really depends. How much time do we have, right, to kind of define everything, what we do, and who we are, in terms of business and how I serve uh, the people through my business. I have a marketing agency. 13. I feel like I've been saying 13 years for way too long. Probably 14 years now, where we help service providers, typically women service providers, although I have had men clients, to communicate, connect, and sell. So basically, we want to make sure that you communicate effectively who you are and what you offer so that you can connect, and that leads to sales. And so we do websites, we do branding, we do social media management and strategies. I have a team that serves our clients, and that's what we do. But I think that that's like, I say that because I feel like that's the understandable way of what we do. But what I'm really passionate about, or the reason why I do this, is because so that you, right, a service provider, can truly be effective with your business. I feel like it took me time to get here to where I'm at, where I can have a team, where I can, live, like truly my business is what financially allows us to live and have the lifestyle that we do. It took me time to get here. And so I want to shorten that time for people. And that's why I support them with their marketing, which honestly, this last 2 weeks, I feel like is a lot more than just marketing, because it has so much to do with people's identity of how they're showing up and what they're doing for their business and like as an individual themselves. And so, but yeah, I want you to sell. I want your business to be effective. I want you to be able to truly say that you're living the life that you want, whatever that looks like.
I love it. Amazing. That sounds like an incredible passion and work that you definitely do. But I want to get to know a little bit more about Kim.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about like your upbringing. I know
Hmm.
you mentioned you're a daughter of immigrants. How
Yeah.
did that shape the woman that you are today and also the leader?
Okay. So I grew up with my mom, single mom, four and two sisters. I'm the youngest of the three, and my mom passes away when I'm 9 years old. So that was a huge disruption in, I guess, like my life. Yeah, my life, because that's basically what it was. And immediately, me and my sisters went to go live with my dad, um, who was already married and had two daughters. One that my stepmom came with, and one that my dad and my stepmom had. And so I had to grow up really fast overnight. Literally, like the weekend. I remember my mom. So my mom passed away. I think it was like a Wednesday or Thursday, if I'm not wrong. And I remember that weekend I started doing my own laundry. And I had just turned 9. So she passed October 28th. I had turned 9 October 8th. So I had just turned 9, and our life, like my life, completely changed. I became very responsible very early. And so, like, I started working at 14 years old, not because I had to. So I always like to clarify that it's not that we were financially struggling or nothing like that. I just was put in a place of, I just saw life different because of what happened. And so that made me take, like, make decisions for myself and what I wanted. So I always felt like I was, I'm not going to say out of place, but definitely ahead of the kids around me, because I was thinking about other things. Like, I felt like sometimes those things that are very childlike, which are very natural and normal, like I think that you should go through those. I skipped a lot of that because of what happened. So we went to go live with my dad, and so my dad was very much, um, obviously, worker. Making sure he did have a good job financially. Thank God he did very well. So we were one of more the affluent families. We would take a lot of family trips together and every year, and we would do a lot of family activities. So that shaped me a lot too. We would travel together. We did all the things. Like, I remember, like, very young, going skiing, going whitewater rafting, going camping, going, like, doing all these things, and that became very significant. And now I think that's why I do a lot of that now too with my family, like, very, like, adventurous. And yeah, I grew up in Queens, in Sunnyside, in New York. And then when I turned, I think it was 18 to 19, I decided to leave New York. I was like, I want something different. I want something, like, I just wanted something different. I was tired of New York. And so I moved to Houston, Texas. And I lived there for about 5 years. I studied there, I went to college there, and I studied psychology. So very different than what I do, but I do love psychology, and I see how I use it in marketing. But I studied psychology, and then I went back to New York. I met my husband in Houston, and so then we went to go live in New York for a year, and then that's when we started traveling. We're like, let's go. Our first country that we went to was Colombia. So we left the States and we started traveling. And that's what we've been doing the last 14 years.
Wow, that's an incredible story. And I can only imagine how, like, losing your mom at such a young age really, like you mentioned, shaped you, right? To see things differently because, like you said, you were not living the typical 9-year-old life, at least not in your head, right?
Right.
Like other kids. Now, how do you think that experience shaped you, like as an adult, specifically for what you do now as and having your marketing agency, and just how
I,
you do business in general?
I think that's what it is. I think more than how I have my market is how I do business. I feel like there are things that I feel like the worst thing that could have happened to me, right? Or one of the worst things, because now I have kids and something bad could happen to them, and that would
Yeah.
be one of the worst things, right? But I feel like overall, I at a very young age I had to experience something very, very traumatic, right? Very impactful.
Yeah.
So now when I'm faced with difficulties, I'm not saying that they're not hard or that they're not stressed, like they don't, create stress, but I feel like I handle them very differently because of that, because I lived such a strong impact at a very young age and I survived it. Now it's like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? And so that's kind of how I have faced business. And obviously there's like ups and downs, and obviously that where we're at now is nothing where we were, years ago. I'm going to tell you something. There was a like, when we started traveling, it's not like because we had this like financial stability and because like there was money in the bank. No, we went on faith and determination, a little bit of craziness, um, and maybe a little bit of irresponsibility, like a little bit of mix of everything. But there was something that was very true for us, that we know what we wanted to accomplish what we wanted to experience. And so we were, I think that overall, we trusted God for, with his purpose in us, you know, and that he would be faithful in the process with us. Like that's number one. So we
Definitely.
dared so we dared to do a lot because of that faith that we had. And I have a ton of those like faith stories of things that like happened miraculously. Um but definitely I feel like that impactful situation is what allowed me to dare to also step out of my comfort zone. Also, I have to say, and I'm thankful for Juan, who's my husband. He's pushed me a lot, like a lot. He's also very faith driven. He's also an entrepreneur. He's always been an entrepreneur. So he's pushed me a lot to step out of my comfort zone. And so that I think is what has, that's how like it has shaped me. And so because I've also taken on responsibility, I think this is what's key. I've taken on responsibility from a young age. So I have always felt responsible about my life, about the decisions that I make. So I know in terms of business that the decisions that I make and the responsibility that I assume for my life is going to determine the outcome that I have.
That's really powerful because I think that when you talk about like faith, right? Like you're, stepping out in faith, it is very hard for a lot of people. And I include myself sometimes in that as well, like to do those, to do certain things, right? Because we tend to kind of sit in the comfortable.
Yes.
Yet, because you went through such an incredible experience of losing your mom, it gave you um, that inner strength
Yes.
to rely on yourself and to go after the things that you want in your life. With that,
Yes,
so it kind of
absolutely.
gave you that faith, right?
I'm not trying to glorify this or say that this is positive, but this is just like my very
Of
personal
course,
situation.
yes,
So the trauma created this like hardcore, I'm going to go do this, right? Like I can do this, right? Um Mind you, I have done a lot of healing in the process, right? Of making sure that I still learn because it does impact you in
yeah,
many ways negatively as well, right? So I have had to do the inner work. Um, but at the end of the day, yes, like when something hard happens, I'm like, okay, I can do this. Like it's not that bad. It's not that bad, you know? Um,
yeah.
and I know that I can do this and I know that I can survive and I know that this is not going to kill me. That's kind of what has been my mindset. Do I go through the motions? Absolutely. Have there been like ups and downs? Absolutely, that affect you. But
Definitely.
even in the midst of all of that, like I have pushed through. And I think that there's something else that was very important and key that I do want to like mention, that my dad, it's so funny because my dad always says that my mom did exactly what she needed to do with us in those 9 years, like
Mm,
in that time. Well, for me it was 9. For my sisters it was a little bit
yeah,
more. But he always says, he's like, what your mom had to do with you guys, um, she did exactly that so that you guys can be ready for the world. And I think that my dad, one of the things that he did that was super important also was that he he equipped us to be very like independent and strong so that we can accomplish what we now do. And I speak like, nah, it's me and my other sisters too, like both of my other sisters are also, I also see this dynamic of what we experience and how it's influenced them also positively. And like now with the results and the families that they have, I'm like, this is definitely like a formation of what we experienced.
it's true. Like you said, it made you stronger, and the fact that you said like your what your dad said about your mom doing everything that she did, right, in just 9 years of your life. If you're a woman, if you're a person of faith, you get it. You get that. right? So how did you start your business? Like what made you decide this is what I want to do? And
Okay.
how did you start?
Okay, so I didn't decide this is what I wanted. So that's very different. I feel like this, I didn't get to the realization. I didn't have like that moment of like, this is what I want to do and this is what I want to concentrate on. This is how I want to serve people. No, absolutely not. So Juan and I, we met. So we met because we started working together, right? And then when we moved to New York, and then when we started traveling, he already did websites. He already did like design. At that time, I remember too, we started doing like websites for radio stations because it was very popular to have your radio station within the website. And we're like, okay, we really have to start doing more business because we need financially, we wanted to have like different circumstances, right? And so I started looking more into like communication. So I was very passionate about like communication, about how people interact. We had already traveled a lot at that time. So like different countries in South America. So I was so intrigued about how like people would connect, how they would communicate, even like how they would communicate and share things of like the gospel. And so that communication was like became a thing for me, and I started studying personal branding, communication, like all these things. I just started investigating also because I started seeing how we needed to brand ourselves and our business so that we can be effective, right? So that we can attract more clients.
Yeah.
But pandemic hit, and this is where I was like, I'm going to get very serious about like helping people be effective with their, not even marketing. For me, it wasn't even marketing because I feel like marketing is so broad. It was like I want to help them be effective with their communication. And so I started like observing everything, and I started seeing the same problem over and over and over. Like, how do I make this make sense of the problem that I'm seeing over and over and over again, right? And it came to
And
me
what was
like,
that problem that you were seeing?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Okay. I'm like
Yeah.
so anxious here. I want to know what that problem is.
So it came to me and it was like communicate, connect, and sell. And I was like, this is it. So what I was seeing was that people weren't communicating effectively who they were and what they were offering. And so if you don't communicate effectively who you are and what you offer, you don't connect with your ideal audience, right? And then if you don't connect, obviously there's no sales for you.
Yeah.
And so from there, that's where I started talking about communication, connection, and selling. Obviously, this is like a framework, right? And there's obviously a lot of components that take place within each section. But at the end of the day, and yesterday I actually shared a post about this, like a reel about this, that these I have this conversation over and over and over again with people. So you're an expert, you know what you're talking about, you know who you've served, you know your experience, but you don't know how to communicate that. You don't know how to communicate effectively. If I go into your social media, into your website, and I see like, and I'm like, wait, what does she do? That's a lack of effective communication. And so that's what I teach, that skill of how you can communicate clearly who you are and what you offer.
And I love that because when I think about women in business, right? How sometimes we can we can kind of we know what, like you said, we know what we offer, we know our skills, or sometimes maybe we don't know it fully, right? But definitely working with somebody like you to kind of help us. I'm going to include myself because I feel like we all struggle with that, right? To be able to communicate the things like our talents, our gifts, our purpose.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I believe this. You have you have gifts, talents, a purpose, right? You want to be able to share that with others, right? And more than, oh, I want to offer you this, my mindset is I have the responsibility to offer this to you because I know that with what I my experience and with my knowledge and with what I know, I'm going to make your life easier. I'm going to help your business. And so for me, it's not like, oh, this is my offer, like this is what I do. No, I feel a sense of responsibility to share what I know. And so that's why I show up.
Are you a business owner, female entrepreneur, and CEO? Do you feel buried in administrative tasks and not working in your zone of genius? Well, if that's you, friend, then listen up. I was there too, but thanks to VY Executive Support, I've handed off all the administrative tasks of my business that are still very important, of course, to a virtual assistant so that I can focus on the things of my business that only I can do and that bring me joy and money. Things like inbox and calendar management, follow-up scheduling, travel coordination, and behind-the-scenes operations are all handled with discretion and proactive attention to detail. The goal is simple: fewer drop balls, more capacity, and a business that feels calm again. If you're ready for right-hand support, check the show notes and connect with Veronica at VY Executive Support. Oh, and don't forget to tell her Luz from Unleash Your Light sent you. You talk about how marketing is aligned with purpose. So how can women reframe like the marketing and communication so that it feels authentic and not salesy? Because I think that that's something that a lot of women, especially women in business or women who are thinking about having a business, and they're just like, oh, I'm just not a salesperson. Like that's something that, and I just want to say this before you answer, is that
Mm-hmm.
this is super important because I think this is what stops a lot of women to go like going after their dreams of maybe having their own business or taking their business to the next level. So how do you reframe that so that it sounds more authentic and not salesy?
Okay, first I want to say this. Sales and marketing is part of any business. Like it's very normal to sell and to market your business, right? I think that the problem is not sales and marketing. I think that the problem is insecurity. You have insecurities, and that's why it's hard for you to show up. Or you don't know, like you feel like you don't know. But I think everybody has a salesperson inside of them. You know that you have convinced your husband more than once of what you wanted or what you guys needed, right? That's sales. You know that at some point you convinced the teacher about letting you retake a test, you convinced your parents about something. That's all sales abilities. Okay, why do I think that we have an issue when it comes to our business? Because we have insecurities. There's something about we have insecurities, we have a limiting mindset when it comes to finances, when it comes to us, our capabilities. You don't know, Luz, how many times I've asked people, tell me 5 attributes that you have. And I'm going to say 95% will start with, well, I'm not good at, I'm like, I didn't say what you're not good at. I said attributes. Tell me 5 things you're good at that are positive about you. So right there, like you already see a mindset thing, a situation. The other thing, and this is what I truly believe, is that you have a responsibility to serve others with what you know, with your experience, with your expertise. It's your responsibility to serve people with that. And that has a financial retribution. When you solve somebody's problem, in consequence, you make money from that. You get paid for that. So when I show up, for me, it's not about, oh, I'm selling or I'm marketing, right? It's I have a responsibility to serve you with what I know, what I offer. I know that what I've lived, what I've experienced, what I've learned, what I've seen with others, what has worked for others, I want you to have that. Like, I want you to have those tools, that knowledge, that truth,
Yes.
so that you can be effective with your business. And so I know that to draw attention to more women about what I do and what I offer, I have to show up. And I have no shame in my game. And if you think, oh, she sells too much, oh, she offers too much, that's a you problem, not a me problem.
Yes, I love that. That is so true. And
Like
I
that's
think
you.
that's what stops a lot of women. And I love this conversation because this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast. It's because to hear the stories of other women, to hear their struggles, but also to hear those mindset shifts, right? That really we need to implement in order to achieve our potential, right? And beyond. And also not only for us, but to pay it forward, right? Because that's what it is,
I
right?
think that
It's not only about us, but it's about paying it forward. And the only way to do that is by sharing your story, by sharing what you do, by sharing those things that you have learned with others. So I love that.
I feel like when you live on purpose, truly, you live knowing that you're here to serve others. That's part of your purpose. And so when you understand that you're here to serve others, I think that's when then you have a sense of responsibility.
Hmm.
And then you do what you have to do to accomplish that, to get to more people. You don't know how many time Luz I've had, and I don't say this with like, oh, me, because it's me. No, I'm thinking this happens to other people too. How many meetings I've had with women and they're like, oh my God, I wish I would have met you before. Right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I wish you would have met me before too. But you know what that tells me? That doesn't tell me like, oh, I'm so awesome. That tells me that makes me go back to my sense of responsibility. Like you have to keep on doing this
Yeah.
because look how many people need your service and what you do. Because it's a lot more. It goes beyond just marketing. It goes like I know that what I'm doing, I'm giving you a voice to be you, to live your potential, to make money, to serve others. Last week, was it last week? Yeah, last week I had a client. I did a brand analysis for her. And like a minute into the meeting, she starts crying, you know?
Oh.
She's like, yeah. So she's like, she started crying. She's like, oh my God, why am I crying? I'm like, girl, they all cry. I'm like, you all cry. Like everybody cries. Don't worry. When I work with people, it's normal for them to cry with me. She's like, why? And I'm like, because this is more than just your marketing. This is more than just, like you looking good. I want you to look good. Yes. But I know this has to do with your purpose, how you serve, how you can impact, and it matters to you. And so that's why you're emotional about it. And so if you truly want to live in purpose, then you know that it's to serve others. Like nobody can do it by themselves. Like those people who are like, I did it all by myself. No, you didn't. You learned from somebody,
No,
from
we all need,
somewhere.
yes, definitely. All right. So for women listening who feel that they're called for more but are struggling with, communicating clearly, what practical shifts can you share with them to to help them show up with confidence?
So if I can give you something practical, like a practical tool or a shift in your mindset, is that every time that you find yourself thinking, no, I can't, you need to start telling yourself, yes, I can. You need to say yes to yourself at the end of the day. Because, and this, I see this a lot within the Latino community. Like we think that and I've seen this a lot in the faith community. We think that somebody's going to come with like all of a sudden one day and be like, you're the one. You got this. You
Mhm.
can do it. Here's all the money so that you can do it,
Like
Or
nobody is
like
coming to save you, as like Mel
nobody's
Robbins says. Like no one's coming.
No one's
You have
coming.
to save yourself. Yep.
Exactly. Even if you want to get like if you want to get Christian on me, Jesus is the only one that saves. And still, he's doing the process in you so that you can be the one to do the thing. Like
Amen.
you
Yep.
need to decide. You need to say yes to yourself. And is it scary? Yes. Are you going to be nervous? Yes. Luz, I remember the first time, like, so we were, obviously in business, right? When you have business financially, you have to continue to increase your prices because so your business can work, right? Because now you need an office, now you need a team, now like all the things, right? And I remember so clearly there was like, we had like a set price for our services. And I was like, I knew that I had to charge more the service. Like I had to, but I was so nervous. I was so nervous. I was not, I'm like, they're gonna say no. They're gonna say no. They're gonna say no. And that's where Juan comes in. He's always like the one that has pushed me. He's like, Kim, do it. He's like, if you charge what we usually charge, I'm not gonna do it. So he was like threatening me, like basically, you can't charge that because then we're not gonna do the service. He's like, that's it. We need to start charging. And I'm like, okay, you come to the meeting with me, Oh, because on top of that, this is also like a mindset thing. Like, on top of that, it was a male that I was going to tell that, um, and so I'm like, he's not going to respect me the same. And he was also a certain culture. So I was like, I felt, this is me, that he was not going to respect me the same, that he was not, you know what I'm saying? So I remember that meeting. For those of you listening, like, I was trembling, literally. Like el estómago was like, "Tu, tu, 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 tu," my legs were like, like and I remember I was so scared. I was so scared. Like I was so nervous. We also needed the money, like to, continue. So I was like, I think it was like 7,000. 7,000, I think was the price that I gave him at that moment for whatever, you know. And I was like, it's $7,000. Like that's how much it would be. And I'm literally shaking. Like, good thing it was like through Zoom because he would have seen me like and he was like, okay, so can I send you like what do you guys do? Like, do you send me a payment link? Like how do you guys charge? And I'm like, yeah, we send you a payment link. Afterwards, I'm like, that was it. That was like the break. I was like, that like at the end of the day, you do it scared.
Yes.
You do it scared, trembling. Don't eat before because if you get an upset stomach, make you go to the bathroom. Like, do what you gotta do, but you do it scared. Now it's so funny because now, like, I feel like that moment for me was like broke the that financial limit.
Yes.
Now it's so funny because now he like Juan is like he's always like how much you want to charge because I'm like, now it's like 12,000, 15,000, like what it costs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's somebody who's going to say yes. And I know that at the end of the day, I have to say yes to myself first so that I can serve you properly.
Absolutely. That's an incredible story. And I think it's something that all of us who have been in business, have experienced like that, telling someone a price and they're like, okay, so
Hmm.
how should I pay you? And you're like, what?
Exactly.
Yes. So I love
Exactly.
that. So I really hope that that your story really resonates. I know that it will because I think it is something that we all go through. I'm saying women entrepreneurs, but also women like me, for example, who I have my career, but I also have my podcast and I've had businesses and it's like, like quote unquote, like my side jobs, but it's the same thing. It's the same concept, right? Like, don't be afraid, take a leap of faith, believe in yourself, right? And believe in the purpose that you have, especially with those skills, talents and abilities that God has given us to help others. So finally, Kim, thank you so much. But before you go, I want you to tell us, share how has, um, your life changed in the 13 plus years that you've had your marketing agency. I know you talked a little bit about you love to travel. Like, tell us a little bit how having, taking those leap of faith has changed your life.
Okay, I don't think that my life has changed by coincidence. Like, I know that the changes that we have experienced or the things that we experience are because of the decisions that we made. I think that every decision brings forth a blessing. Not every decision that you make is going to be right, but every decision that you make is going to allow you to learn, to experience. And that starts building towards who you are. We have this lifestyle. I feel like also my lifestyle is a little bit different. We homeschool, we travel, we run a business, right? And so we started traveling before it was even a thing. Like I didn't know what digital nomad meant, you know? Like when we started that wasn't we and like I said, like it's not like we planned it. Like this was our life plan. No. This we just kind of like fell into this. But it has allowed me to learn to be flexible with myself, with others, and in my business, right? Um, and I think I have to say, like, I always go back to this. I have to say that I could be like, oh, I'm super talented. And I do think I am talented. And I think I have great skills. Like, I love selling, I love communicating. But I think that I wouldn't have the results that I have and or the talent that I have if it wasn't for God. Like, that's what it comes down to. It really does come down to me with faith.
You have an incredible story. I knew you had an incredible story, Kim. I really did. I knew that. That's why I was like, I don't want to talk to you until the actual interview because I knew that you just were going to have such a powerful interview. And you have no idea how much I needed this. And I'm sure if
Mm.
I needed this, other women listening to this podcast needed this as well. So thank you again for coming on here and sharing your story. And so tell us for those who have made it this far and want to
Mhm.
connect with you, where can they connect with you and find out more about who Kim Decena is?
Yeah. So if you go on Google and you put Kim Decena, you'll see my websites, you'll see everything. But if not, I think that Instagram is one of the places where I show up the most. It's Kim Decena official. And yeah, but I feel like sometimes that gets confusing. Kim Decena on Google and I'll show up everywhere.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you again.
Thank you, Luz.